Namaste, Jai Bharat. Today, let's do some philosophy. The question is living after dying, that is, life after death. In every civilization, perhaps, the question of life after death or the so superb extreme ambition of continuing life even after one's death had been the case with most of the civilizations in the entire world. So, what is the situation of life after death? What happens? What happens after a person dies is a normal question is asked, but let's think in terms of living after death. That's life after death. Let's see. The simple logic, very simple logic at +2 level. I am telling. It is simple that what shall be the situation of life after death should be logically the situation life before death. Don't you think it's a common sense logic that life after death shall be completely akin to life before death? Now, about before death you can speak of because you do not know anything about it. That's the situation. You do not know anything about what was the case before your birth. So, logically, don't you think it is a case that you shall not know anything after you die? Simple logic, I am telling. Yes, it's a simple logic. What used to be the situation before birth, shall be the situation after death, birth, death. So, whatever you think of yourselves is between these 2 points, birth and death. Before birth, you do not know. So, obviously, after death also you shall not know. Why do you insist that? You know that our life has begun at some point in time. There's no confusion about it. Your life began at some point in time, and when it ends at some point in time, you shall go back to a situation where you had been before birth. That's one logic. Now, there's a question of soul. There are many people who try to speak in terms of soul, who try to even understand that what happens to soul or what is soul, etc., etc., etc. Lot of theories, lot of philosophy, lot of theories, lot of discussions. And in Bharat we call it Atma, but we have multiple names with multiple connotations for soul. Atma, Aham, Chitta, Mana, Manas, all those things. Aham, all those things are there, but each one with varying connotations. I'm not going into the details of those things. So let's talk again a common sense question. What are you? Or what is your identity? Suppose you are born in say Africa. Your identity will be that of an African. Maybe the soul. Maybe this whatever. Let's speak about soul. Atma becomes complicated. And suppose you are born in Sri Lanka. Your identity shall be one that of a Sri Lankan. Your appearance will be one that of Sri Lankan, and your food habits will be one that of Sri Lankan, your language will be one that of Sri Lankan, etc., etc., etc. Your name shall be one that of Sri Lankan, and so on and so forth. Now, all these things that you consider as your identity is what you picked up after you have been born here. Rather, after you have been born, these identities comes and gets attached with you based on many circumstantial, existential phenomena. Things will come to you and you assume a kind of identity. It's again simple. Go back to your childhood. As far as you can recall your remembrance, you do not know many things, and you start thinking that you are this, you are this, you are this. Gradually, through a process of evolution, that is something of a becoming. Through a process of evolution to something of a becoming, you start assuming identity. all kinds of identity. And that's it. These identities what you picked up, or what you have got associated with, or what you got attached without, maybe inadvertently, obviously. It's not that you are making an identity of your want right in the beginning. I'm telling. All these things happen spontaneously and inadvertently. Maybe you will change your identity once you're grown up. Given a circumstantial support, you may change from one to another, but then that change won't be a substantial change in the sense it's a change at the superstructural level, but the substructure shall ever remain what you are. You just can't make a becoming, make a being from that or through a becoming. Not quite possible. So, whatever has happened to you after you being born should automatically and logically end when you die. So, even if there is something after death, you are not continuing to exist as you are here with the same name, same identity. Suppose you're a vegetarian and someone is a non-vegetarian, you are not going to continue to eat meat after death in all likelihood, or the whole thing is unknown and unknowable to you. So that's a logical situation about what shall happen after death. The stories of heaven, hell, all these stories created either to soothe on imagination of a man who wishes not to die. You do not want to die. That is when you are young, energetic and active, you don't want to die. But you don't know the mental situation of a person who has reached senility, or who had reached a kind of detachment. You don't want all those things anymore. What shall be his wish? Think about that. I am not going to speak anything about that. You think about that and try to understand his mental makeup. It shouldn't make any difference to him. But he's got so bugged up with things, so bored up with things, and these things are boring in the world, obviously, undoubtedly. Now let's come back to Bharatiya Darshan. There's a discussion about the property of soul. The property of a soul, or property of soul per se, in Bharatiya Darshan, which in English could be translated as Indian philosophy. The term is repugnant because its philosophy has got a different way, and Darshan is still yet different, much richer actually. So in Bharatiya Darshan or Indian philosophy, the property of soul is supposed to be pure consciousness. The property of soul is said to be pure consciousness. And what is pure consciousness? Simple. Pure consciousness shall be consciousness without any impurities. Now, what shall be impurities in the consciousness? Impurities in the consciousness shall be the contents. And the real property of soul is contentlessness. There shall be no content. So, this is what the Indian philosophy speaks of. And then, if that is the case, all these contents are waste. Your name, your language, your whatever you think as yourself, minus all those things. That is supposed to be pure consciousness. This theory, of course, is clear. It comes when we think about an ultimate reality as a reality. No name, no he, no she, no qualities. This is Shankaracharya's philosophy. Ultimate reality is one without shape, quality, etc. Nirguna, Andarakara, Nishprapancha, everything he says, it's like. So your Atma is just the same. Your soul is that's the same. It doesn't have any property, or it is beyond having any properties. That's more technical. The ultimate reality doesn't have quality because it's beyond having any qualities, because the moment you suppose a quality, it reduces its reality. So why worry about? Ultimate question is simply this: why one bothers about what shall happen after death? Because you can't be what you are after death. All this all these things about yourselves, all this process of thinking, all this process of knowing, all this accumulated information, and some of which turns into knowledge, and of course later sometimes in wisdom, as wisdom, all those things just gets over. Just gets over because you are entering into another phase, a simple phase, as from which phase you are coming. The phase before you are living or the phase before your death is repeated. This falls perfectly in line with the concept of time in Bharatiya knowledge tradition, where time is cyclical. Time is cyclical. It goes round and round. That's the only way to explain infinity of time. Otherwise, if it is continuous, no beginning, no end, and no middle, it's difficult to comprehend. Cyclical, better to comprehend. It's easy to comprehend. So, don't bother about death. Don't bother about death. Somehow you are born, and somehow you shall die. No one knows how you will die. Somehow you shall die, and that's the story is over. You go back to a state, the same state in which you used to be before you are born, and that's it. Let's not bother. Let's not break our heads. We shall meet again with some other thought. Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Siya Ram.